to start it again? Okay. See what? Yeah, I'll explain it to you later. But I would like to welcome Gil Carandang, who is the father of organic and natural farming in the Philippines. He has been.
Ano pipindutin ko dito?
Yeah. Would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your history and how you came here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I hear you fine. Not now. Try to say something again.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, okay, that's great.
Okay. I'm trying. First time I use this Zoom, so you guys have to bear with me.
Well, thank you very much for being here today, Gil.
Okay.
I could talk a little bit about how you had have spread natural farming over the last 20 years, if you'd like.
Yeah, you might as well.
Okay. Well, I want to show your old website because there's a website called archive.org, and it's
Okay.
still got your fabulous old website, the Unconventional Farmer, there. So I'm going to show this.
Okay.
So this is how I first came to know of Gil Carandang. Gil is been a student and practitioner of natural farming, and for over 20 years, he's been studied with both Master Cho as well as nature farmers in Japan. Um, in 2003, on a Fulbright scholarship, he came to North America. He worked with Steve Diver at an ecological ag conference where they were the first to teach about indigenous microorganisms in North America. In 2008, he was brought out to Hawaii and once again downloaded a bunch of information to willing farmers who are willing to listen to just how easy and applicable and with just ingredients from right in your own kitchen you can make all these wonderful soil potions. Basically that's how I heard Chris Trump explain it at the 2000 conference on the internet one time. He's like, when Gil came to Hawaii, everyone thought this was just voodoo at the time. but what you have really simplified too with the use of IMOs is you had seen that you could just take a little bit of the lactic acid bacteria, like 1/3 lactic acid bacteria and 2/3 of an IMO2 culture captured on rice, and then you would create your cocktail that you called beneficial indigenous microorganisms. Now, in 2015, that was the first IMO I made actually off your website. I learned how to make both the lactic acid bacteria serum as well as the beneficial indigenous microorganisms. And then since then, I've learned, various other ideas and approaches, and Master Cho's more streamlined approach that is his students currently teach, but I love to see hybridization myself. And so this is where I've always had a lot of respect for how you are your own pioneer and have created just a very true to the Philippines style of nature farming that also was really applicable everywhere. But realizing, you don't need all these ingredients. Here's what you work with if you have molasses. Maybe, if you don't have sugar, you can always use molasses. I love that approach that you had about making your own fertilizers and microbial inoculants. And so Gil is here today to talk to us about farming with nature's elements: wind, water, earth, fire, and microbes. So I want to thank you again for being here with us today.
Yeah, that's good. So you want me to start? Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. The topic that I have decided to share are basically my experiences in natural farming back here in the Philippines, even after my last visit to North America in Hawaii. Okay, so I have practically focused on several elements in nature that will help us, each farmer, to do sustainable agriculture. Be call it organic, natural farming, or whatever. So the topic that I pick is, I call it farming with earth, water, wind, and fire, and of course, the use of microbes. So we both talk about here the macro element in the natural system and the micro element, which is the microbials that we have been talking about in natural farming. First of all, I'd like to share with you guys my journey to sustainable agriculture. My first lesson, or the topic, my first lesson in sustainable agriculture is my attendance with the workshop of the late John Jebons of the biointensive farming, mini farming fame. And there are several things that I'd like to discuss of what I've learned from him, which actually he learned from the great horticulturist Alan Chadwick. First, it's the double digging method of land cultivation. I believe Mr. Ray Yoon has talked about this, of what I call human intervention on the natural system, like on a compacted soil, to give an extra help for farming. So this double digging method of cultivation basically introduce the element of air. Aeration is introduced in the soil because to have a living soil, you need air. Second, as we introduce air to the soil, oxygen and oxygen do combust, the function of combustion. So what I'm saying here is basically when we introduce air to the organic matter in the soil, then it gets combusted, and then the nutrient is released, of which the plant and the animal, the microbes, are released and used by the plant for growth and health. Okay, that is one of the principal focus that I have seen in the biointensive method. The next thing that I've seen, which I appreciate, is what I call the moon influence in farming. Okay? Rather than talking about the celestial influence, talk about the biodynamic farmers, I have been trying to focus on the moon influence on farming. And when we talk about the moon, we talk about the water element. So water is very important. In fact, I use water as a main ingredient in my farming design. Okay, when I have clients that wanted to have their farm developed, I principally use some permaculture principles, ecological principle in designing the land, because in order for us to grow the land, to grow the food, we need to design the landscape. And that's what's the beauty of this permaculture, or what sometimes we call it, we farmscape the land. And three elements in the approach is, first, I try to look at the cultivated area, which is designed for man, the primitive area, which is the forest representation. You just let it be the way it is. And more importantly is the water area. There is a connection between the cultivated area and the primitive area. And the transition is water. And that's why I always put the element of water in the form of pan. Here in the Philippines, I've been promoting the concept of 1,000 square meter of integrated, sustainable integrated organic and natural farm, which composes growing food like vegetable and herbs, raising animals like the no-smell pig and chicken, and even aquaculture. This type of integration is very similar to the biodynamic approach of farming, where the crops are integrated with the animals. And the system of growing food is very intensive because you have very limited land area of 1,000 square meter, which can feed the family not just for food self-sufficiency, but earn income. We're looking at close to $1,000 a month in this type of farm landscape. Anyway, the other thing that I talk about during my training, my seminar, is the moon cycle. When we talk about the moon, we are talking about the element of water. Okay. So this is very important because the moon influence is related to sunlight, which again I talk about in farming with earth, water, and fire. Fire refers to sunlight. Plant leaves are stimulated by sunlight, while root system are stimulated by darkness. Okay, which means likewise moon represents water. During full moon, water is high, and likewise the gravitational pull between the earth and the moon creates this energy that influence better seed germination and plant growth. And this is a natural phenomenon observed during this moon cycle experience that we have. The other influence in my journey to sustainable agriculture is the Pococa do nothing agriculture. Basically, it is the less intervention in the natural system as we farm. And farming is basically dependent with less human intervention in agriculture aligned with the rules of nature. Okay, I think Ray Yul has been talking about this, the lazy way of farming, or let nature does its course rather than plentiful of human intervention. And of course, the other influence is the microbials, which we talk about, like the Dr. Higa and Dr. Cho. Dr. Higa talk about effective microorganism, which talk about lactic acid bacteria, actinomycete, photosynthetic bacteria, ray fungi, among others, that is used in farming. Likewise, Dr. Cho, which is also one of my mentor, has talked about indigenous microorganism. It is indigenous that you can cultivate rather than buy in order to allow the farmer to be empowered on controlling their farming inputs. And and of course, the what I call the variation that I've designed. And when we talk about the variation of the formulation of the microorganism and inputs that I've made, I call beneficial indigenous microorganism. So selectively, we're trying to scout for more beneficial by looking at the natural system formulated is heavily, as Peter Jackson has mentioned earlier, it's at least 30% lactic acid bacteria. The question is, why do I have to focus on lactic acid bacteria as a kind of microbes that I incorporate in this inoculant, microbial inoculant? It's essentially because of its characteristic as a facultative microbes that can live with or without oxygen. At the same time, our gut, our main system as a human being is centered on the gut. Everything is designed, processed in the gut, and the main occupant of the so-called gut is principally the 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 anaerobic facultative microbe called lactic acid bacteria. So those are the things that brought me in to the sustainable agriculture. But first, why are we farming in the first place? Why agriculture? Farming or agriculture is basically a human intervention in growing food. Okay? Because we have passed from the food gatherer of the yesteryears, so we have settled and tried to grow food on the land where we settled. Natural farming that is aligned with nature. We use nature as our principal guide in our farming system. We also talk about the focus on microbials in natural farming, ferments and enzyme. Farming with the macro elements of what I mentioned of earth, water, wind, and fire, and microorganism. Now, what is the principal goals of sustainable agriculture? This is one thing that I've learned from my old mentor. The purpose of farming is to create a fertile soil, a living soil, in order to be able to grow food in perpetuity. Sustainability is the bigger issue of this. And when we look at farming system, regardless of what it is, especially natural farming, our main focus is the soil. Everything is soil-based. Soil is the alpha and the omega. It is the beginning and end. But the other consideration in our farming system, when we talk about sustainability, is both the ecological and the economic aspect. We farm not just to feed ourselves, but also to feed others. So, and there must be an economic remuneration if it's one of our goal is beyond food self-sufficiency to ourselves and our family. We need to make money, generate income in our agricultural practices. Ecological, which means that we need to farm with nature in mind to enhance the natural system rather than to destroy it. And this is very important in terms of our farming goals. In fact, one time I remember when I started to do a CSA and attended one of the markets here in the Philippines, I was not making any money. I was ecologically sustainable because I'm practicing organic farming, clean, safe food for others, but I'm not making any money. So the economic remuneration is also important, especially in the kind of society that we live in. But when we go into economic remuneration, when we go to commercial agriculture, it's another story between the new trend of integration, diversification, rather than simply doing monocropping, which I may be talking about a little bit later on. The other aspect of farming is let me share you an experience that I had. I believe this is in 2002 when I was doing apprenticeship at Center for Agroecology and Sustainable Food System at the University of California in Santa Cruz. This is where one of my mentors found me, sharing my natural farming experiences, and he brought me to the Eco Farm Conference where I did a presentation on the microbials together with Steve Deaver. Okay, that's why I've known the guy for quite some time. He's a very knowledgeable person. Okay, me, I am just a simple farmer trying to make a living, trying to grow food rather than anything else. Now, in one of my, after my completion of the apprenticeship in University of Santa Cruz, I went to visit a farmer in New Mexico. I believe he was the farm manager of Seeds of Change, and she's farming multi-crop, mainly vegetable and herbs, somewhere, I believe in Albuquerque. Yeah, it is in Albuquerque. And this guy is a biodynamic farmer, and he is originally from Colombia, South America. So I apprenticed with him for a couple of days. So every day we go to the farm, to the field, and then before we start our work, we kneel down and kiss the earth. So every day we go kneel down and kiss dirt. On the third day, I can't help but ask him, why are we doing this? Why are we kissing the dirt? And he started to tell me that we kneel because we want to be humble. We need to be humble to nature, that we are part of nature. We're not bigger than nature. We kiss the dirt, the soil, as a sign of appreciation that this dirt, this earth is what keeps us alive. And this, again, very important that without this soil, there is no life. Just like my biointensive mentor said, John Jebons, the first inches of the land is what keeps us alive. So the topsoil is where all of the major growing food that we do in sustainable agriculture. Now, the other thing that really brought me into sustainable agriculture, organic, and into natural farming, and it's really the creation of the living soil. In fact, I always tell my student here in the Philippines that the noblest of all the profession is to be an organic natural farmer. It is even more noble than being a priest, because the priest would say, repent and you will be saved. Me, as a farmer, you grow food. As we grow food, we grow life. And as we grow life, we become life itself. It's all about life. And everything, this life thing, everything emanates from the ground, from the earth. And this is the real focus of our farming system. It's the soil. Now, let me be brief. Why did I speak about this earth, water, wind, and fire? Because lately, or for the past years, the natural farmers has been engaged in producing sustainable inputs to improve their farming system. But we need also to focus on the other macro factors or macro elements in nature. It is the earth, which is the soil, water, which is needed in our farming, wind or air, sunlight, among others. So let's first start with the earth or with the soil. This is what I tell my student. When you start to farm, the first thing that you need to do is observe your land. Where will you grow the food? And the first thing that you need is to find out what is the characteristic of your soil, the type of soil. We talk about soil that is clay, sand, silt, and loam. Okay? I don't talk much about the silt factor, which is like a hybrid between the clay and the sand. But I call the ideal soil the loamy one, which is basically full of organic matter. Okay? Organic matter, the very essence of the nutrient that's released to make the soil fertile of which the food are being grown. So when we talk about the soil type, clay, for example, is very minute in particles as contrasted to sandy soil. It's the complete opposite. And one thing that you will notice on this soil element, there, there is the movement of air and water. Okay. On a clay soil, air and water have difficulty in passing through freely as compared to sandy soil. However, clay soil keep the nutrient. They're more fertile. But the movement of air, the difficulty of movement of air and water makes it acidic. So in general, soil that is clay is generally acidic. And soil that is sandy in character is more towards the alkaline pH. Of course, most of the food that we grow needs more of a neutral pH. And the main character of a good fertile soil is the loamy character, which is basically the high in organic matter. This organic matter issue or idea has been heavily explained or talked about by the great horticulturist Alan Chadwick. When I was doing my apprenticeship in University of California in Santa Cruz, and we went to the Chadwick Garden, and the food that we grow there is planted on upslope beds. Imagine you're going up and down rather than horizontally. And he said, according to my old mentor, Orin Martin, he said that Chadwick is trying to make a point. His point is the more organic matter you put on the ground will improve not only soil fertility but also control erosion. So organic matter is very essential in the farming system that we do. In the Philippines, currently the main practice is conventional. I must say that the organic matter content of the Philippine soil, the commercial Philippine soil used in farming, in agriculture, is about 2 to 3%. Certain areas, it's about 3 to 4%. If you have an organic matter of 6 to 8 to 10%, you don't need to fertilize. And this is the very essence of this organic matter. The, in fact, as it's been always been said, in order to neutralize or control the condition of the soil, if you increase the organic matter, then you also regulate the condition of the pH, making it neutral. And this is the function of the dynamics of these microbes and the organic matter that it fed on and releases this nutrient for the plant to grow and use. The next thing that I talk about is what we call, so that is the principal idea of the earth. First is understanding the structure of the soil, and in order to improve the soil, a loamy soil to loamy soil. And this is the idea of adding more organic matter. As you add more organic matter, because you cannot change the structure of the soil, then it becomes a low clay loam and sandy loam. And this is the critical issue in developing a living soil. It is what we call organic matter, which is the main food of this microbe that we will talk about some more a little bit later on. Next is what we call water. Practically 80% of all living forms is made up of water. Water is a life-giving element in the natural system. So in farming, we need water. That's the reason why it's much better. Farming cannot really exist, or agriculture cannot be successful without water. However, lately, we have experimented on water treatment. Okay? And this is the thing that I'd like to emphasize. Where water is abundant, life form is plentiful. And we have seen this. Compared the tropical rainforest to the Sahara Desert land, the main element that creates a more diversified biological ecology is moisture or water. Now, we have experimented on improving the characteristic of the water. And this can be summarized into 4 approaches or ways of treating the water. First is aeration. We need to aerate the water. And this is very important is because when you observe nature, water coming from heaven is better water than the water coming from our faucet as we irrigate our plants. Why? Plain common sense, the water coming from the sky absorb the oxygen and the dissolved minerals in the air. That's the reason why our plants love rainwater. Well, not the acid rainwater, but I'm talking about the clean rainwater in our plants. Now, most, especially here in the tropics, because of too much water and less air movement on the soil, the condition of acidity is rampant or prevalent. So we figured out aside from aerating the water, we need to alkalinize the water. If you look at the practices in the compostee, they aerate the tea so you can predominate more microbes, and then we need to use the tea within a certain period where the air is still in the tea, and we applied it to our plants. Now, in the alkalinizing, we let the water pass the element of calcium. So first, we have a drum, 4 drums that we have made. The first drum, the top water, regular water, goes into the first chamber of the drum, encircling, creating a vortex that sucks the air from heaven.
Looks like we might have lost him for a second. Nope, we got you.
Am I still there?
Yeah, he went blank for a
Okay.
second.
I see. I'm not used to this type
Ah,
of presentation. I'm more on person to person, so I can see the human reaction as I speak.
well,
Anyway, what can we do? We're in the pandemic. Okay. Anyway, so we try to. So how do you aerate the water in the drum? You simply use the pressure of the water from the faucet, create a vortex, and then you're able to create an aerated water. Then after that, the same water passes through the element of calcium to make it more alkaline. Okay? The level of measurement of alkalinity is dependent on the kind of calcium material that you use. It could be limestone, lime, could be eggshell, you know, things like that. But how long it stays on that second chamber of the drum to alkalinize and correct your water into a more alkaline character. Then after passing through this chamber to alkalinize the water, we now structure the water. Basically, the concept of structuring the water is to make the water molecule smaller. You know, we're more familiar nowadays with nanotechnology,
yeah.
wherein the molecule, whatever it's called, it's made 1 in a billion smaller. If we are able to make the molecule or whatever it is, the water, smaller, then it is easily more absorbable by the plants.
Okay.
Okay, this is the basic concept. Okay, and how do we do this? Basically, we use a magnetic field. We pass the water through a magnetic field. So I use 2 magnets. So if you have a magnet, okay, there's the North Pole and the South Pole. If you do north-south, it attracts, correct?
Right.
If you use north-north or south-south, it repels. The magnet will repel if you try to bring him together. Okay? As you push it, it will come to a point that you cannot push it anymore. And and my one of my grandson looked at me and he said, "What's wrong with you, grandpa? I mean, how come you cannot push it?" Uh, and like in between, there's something that stop it from doing so, and this is part of the magnetic field. I believe this is also the same concept that they've used in bullet train. You know, you wherein you use this repulsion mode of the magnetic field to make things move faster or whatever. So anyway, so initially I bought uh, a barrel. I think this was made in Italy that has this magnet inside. Okay, but it costs a lot of money. So I said the farmer cannot afford this. So what I told the farmer, you simply buy recycled magnets from old speakers.
Okay.
So if the, yeah, if this is the pipe, we put one magnet on this side, another magnet on the other side. It should be on the north-north or south-south mode, so the repulsion mode. Then you just simply tie it, and as the water passes through that uh, that pipe in that magnetic field of repulsion, the water, quote unquote, start to twist, therefore making it small, technically smaller. This is very difficult to explain, but this practice, I think, is has been practiced in water treatment. Uh, I think even the Japanese farmers have used this technique in water treatment that is much better also used in agriculture. Anyway, what we're simply saying, the concept is if it's smaller, then easily absorbable, just like what they do in nanotechnology.
And
If
also, if all the polarity is all flowing the same way, instead of like, boiled water, for instance, everything would be not structured. And so you're talking about similar to what a stream does, where
yes,
ionizing and vortexing
yes,
and streamlining. I've heard of even like gasoline engines,
yes,
like 300% efficiency or something, 100 miles per gallon if you actually had magnets where it fed into the pistons. So,
yeah, that's correct. That's basically what we're trying to do here. Then, as it passes through there, so remember what have we done so far? We have aerated the water, introduced oxygen. Okay,
mhm.
remember oxygen combusts.
Yeah.
It's very important. It's like enzyme decompose. Okay, that's why we have enzyme. We use enzyme here. My son, who is a chef, uses papaya enzyme to
Tenderize
to
it.
soften the meat. Yeah, tenderize. Same story. Most of the alternative medicine of this friend of mine that he sells these juices, his base material for his juice is basically pineapple juice, because of, again, because of the bromelade enzyme. Okay, and enzyme breaks down things. Okay, microbes breaks down things. You Microbes will digest organic matter and make it smaller and easily can be assimilated by the plant, and so does enzyme. And that's the reason why in my old booklet I talk about beam and bionutrient. These two always goes together. One is food, the other one is processor. Okay? Where there's plenty of food, there'll be plenty of microbes. That's the reason. And food is basically represented in the general category of organic matter. So the kind of organic matter you put in the ground will attract all sorts of diversified microbes, because where there is food, there'll be food eater. And this is the very idea of releasing these two combination. It is like the bow and the arrow. You cannot just use the bow, does not function, or the arrow. It needs to go together. It has this the dualistic or dialectical relationship. It cannot exist without one and the other. Just like what Ray Yun had talked about, the yin and the yang. Okay, there's the fluidity, the circular motion of the yin and the yang. It is not the the classical Marxist or pure back dialectics of the 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 well, I forget now.
So,
Anyway, the
so
anyway, uh, so after, maybe I'll remember it. It's one of those things
okay.
I forget lately because of my I guess I'm a senior citizen already. I'm retired. You know, I was literally forced by you to join you, quote unquote. But
Ah,
I appreciate the invitation. In fact, I have not done much talk or seminar even before the pandemic, except for one or two, uh, because I've retired in the island, in Apayong Island by the Taal volcano. And when we were there, the volcano erupted. Then after that, typhoon came, and I'm still in the process of rehabilitating the island, which I'm setting up a model of a sustainable eco village. We go beyond now into farming. We go now into developing sustainable community
yeah, yeah.
in this pattern of, but again, the basis of this sustainable community is still the soil, the dirt. It's based, it's land based. We grow food, and when we grow food, this is what happened, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Anyway, it's an attempt. And hopefully, after pandemic, it will be open to the public. I was ready to open it, but then the volcano erupted and the pandemic came in. Okay, so when the water passes through this element of structuring through the magnetic field, then it passes through the last chamber, which is where our beneficial microorganism is, the probiotic. So can you imagine a water that is aerated, alkaline, structured with probiotic? When you water it to your plants, you will use less of the inputs that we talk about. Less of this fermented plant juice, fermented fruit juice, this bionutrient, because you have incorporated a very important element of air, in the water, the the pH consideration, the structuring, and of course the adding of our microbials. And in our experience, this is the better irrigation water. In fact, we experimenting also using it in water treatment. Okay, one of the principal I've been trying to do is to do water treatment using a very simple method rather than the old way of creating big, highly expensive STP, sewage treatment, water. The design of the Americans are so expensive. It costs millions. And it's mandated on big companies that they should be able to treat their water. So they use aeration, big machine, etc., etc. What we have learned is we do a simple way of water treatment, passing through the gravel and sand filter. After that, it goes into a plant filter. In my mini farm concept, we put water hyacinth as the plant that cleanse the water. We also use it to feed the pigs. Okay. Then after that, we add again the microbes. The microbes is still an integral part of the farming system. I always believe the microbials is the one that's revolutionizing sustainable agriculture globally. I love the idea of Ray Yun of less intervention. It's more of a Pococa method of do nothing agriculture. But initially, since we have destroyed, exploited our land, we need to make certain correction until we're able to develop a fertile soil. And that's the idea of creating more microbial dynamics on the soil and organic matter is a key issue. One example of what we do when we start a small garden here is a compacted soil. We do cover cropping. I generally use beans. We use mung beans. You familiar with mung beans?
Yep.
Okay, mung beans and radish. Together, I just throw it to the dirt. The radish will go down to the ground because how it's created. It's supposed to be a root crop. It's not going up, it's going down. So it will break the hard pan. And when it dies, it will decompose and then loosen the soil. At the same time, the mung beans will fix the nitrogen and the biomass will create more organic matter. And the next time we till the land, if we need to till it still, it's more easy to till than the old hard pan. So it's as Ray would say, it depends on how you want to do it. What is applicable to you, you do it. Okay. If it's not working, do something else. Okay. Okay. That's why I keep on telling my students, you come here to my seminar, I hope 10% of you become an actual farmer because most of you are just organic romantics. You just like the idea of saving the land, be an environmental, but at the end of the day, it's very difficult to be a farmer. That's why my manager made a t-shirt because these are the three things that I always tell my student. We call it 3 T's. In Filipino, bawal ang tatlong T. Bawal means it's not allowed, it's no to be one. First is tamad, lazy. Second is tanga, stupid. And 3, takot, or you're afraid. So, to be a successful farmer, you can't be lazy because, at the end of the day, farming is all hard work. Regardless whether you use machine or your hand, it's whole hard work exposed to the sun, to the element. Second, you can't be stupid. Okay? Why follow that system? It says here, let's do this. Follow this protocol. Like one of my students asked me one time, it says here on your formulation, Mr. Carandang, that I need to put 30% sugar or molasses. So, but I don't have one. So, hey, then use what you have. In fact, eventually it will still ferment. Just like what Jadam used, he completely disregard the idea of sugar and just use leaf mold to do the decomposition or the fermentation. And then he told me, how come it's not fermenting? Then you know what I asked him? He said, it says here on the booklet that in 7 days it should ferment. How come still not doing it? Then I told him, where are you? I'm inside the refrigerator. Which means that,
yeah.
I mean, the condition in his area is probably cold, and then the microbial activity is more rampant on, warmer condition, so temperature. And of course, again, this is a very important thing because remember, our laboratory as natural farmer is not the typical lab that everything is controlled. Luminar filter, this and that. Our lab is the farm. So the condition, the microclimate will dictate the processes of our creation of our inputs that we use in agriculture. In short, don't be stupid. Use damn common sense. And that's what most people don't have. They don't have common
It's
sense.
uncommon sense.
Huh?
I
What?
call it. I used to call it uncommon sense. Now I call it actually
Unco-
extremely rare sense.
yeah, uncommon sense.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been telling my colleagues in the Fulbright Association that I was president at one time. I told them we studied, we do this and that, and then we just put it in the library. We need to bring it to the people, to the masses, to the farmer, so we can make use of it. And then people said, then if it doesn't work, use something else. Let's be practical. Let's use common sense. And the third element that I talk about is you have to be creative. You should not be afraid. It's like dream, like you. I think you're a dreamer. Okay, how old are you?
I'm
You're still
33.
very young.
Yeah, I'm only
Oh,
33.
see, you're 33. See, you're only 33. I'm 70 years old. Okay. So what I said is, I even tell my student, we need to dream. What we're doing here in this convergence is we're trying to make things better for humanity and the earth. Okay. So, and we dream that hopefully one day this is what's going to happen. Get rid of the pollutants, get rid of the destruction, align our farming system to the rule of nature, not to the rule of man. Because man make mistakes. Nature does not make mistakes. That's why my guide in farming is nature. Man, if you want to be philosophical about it, man is 50% perfect and 50% imperfect. Okay? Nature is perfect. Nature is pure. So if my teacher, my ultimate teacher is nature, then I don't make mistake. If I follow you as a human being, chances are 50% of the time I will fail because there's imperfection in yourself as compared to the perfection in the natural system.
Yeah.
So as soon as we start to grasp this philosophical implication of what we do when we become a better farmer, okay, and then we start to move towards that direction. Just like what I remember uh, in when I was in Santa Cruz, one of my co-office, I asked, "Why do you buy organic food?" And when organic food is more expensive. Anyway, at that time, I don't know now. Is it cheaper now
Oh no.
in America? Oh no, no. Oh, no, no, still a problem. So I said,
Yeah.
why do you buy organic food when you can buy conventional food? You know what he said? He's not talking about that wellness or healthy. He said, I want to spend my hard-earned dollars. Okay, I want to make a political statement. This I want to spend my money in support of organic farmers that takes care of my health and the health of the environment. And this is what we're trying to promote. So we go beyond organic. We go beyond the technique. We go to the higher level, to the I think that's what Ray Yun has been trying to the spiritual side of it, or most of these natural farming advocates. But generally, we use it. We try to grow food the way it should be grown, following the rules, mimicking nature, and that is really what we're trying to do. Anyway, so the third element is what we call wind. Okay, wind refers to air. I call wind air in motion. Okay, air, you cannot see the air. Okay? But when the air passes through something on a certain velocity, you see, oh, like right here at the farm now, I can see that the leaves of this mulberry is waving. The air experience. Of course, this is one thing I always say, that farming is all about stress management. Okay. And we regularly played the classical music on our farm. The serenity that it creates makes the plant much happier, rather than me playing hard rock that creates agitation, because that creates stress. People who get, even when you talk about wellness, most of the people that get sick is because of stress. It could be physical stress, mental stress, or whatever. So in farming, in sustainable practices that we do, we need to have stress management system. So we need to control this macro element that may create the stress to the plant. In fact, when I talk about this island that I've moved lately, uh, I've been trying to grow food the same way that I grow it in my farm here. And most of the plant don't grow well. I've done what I'm supposed to do, but I said, what the hell is the problem? But it seems the problem is the element of too much wind, because I'm in the shore, especially the westerly and easterly wind direction. Too much sun, and the nature of of the soil is very sandy, and that generates more heat. And of course, the volcano that have created the sulfuric dioxide that created acid rain. So now we've been trying to rehabilitate and say, what shall we do? We have done all the farming practices that we have done, and some of them respond well, most of them have not responded well. So now I started to use these microbes, because when you spray the microbes to the plant, it becomes a protector to the plant. Instead of the heat, the sunlight stressing the plant, for example, the microbes is the bodyguard that shelter the plant from being stressed by the sunlight or the air. So this microbes is very important. It's our main bodyguard to protect the president from being assassinated by some terrorists, something of that sort. So when? So it's important that there is a serenity in our farm. And one way of creating this serenity is the playing of the classical music. I don't know what's in the classical music. Something that is soft music rather than heavy rock that creates some kind of agitation. So it is again stress management. And lastly, we call it fire. Fire basically refers to sunlight or heat or both. Okay. As you know, we cannot grow food without sunlight. Most of the commercial food that we grow needs sunlight. That's the reason why we clear the land, let the sunlight penetrate, because most of the food that we grow, like vegetable, are basically uh, need sunlight to generate the photosynthesis aspect. So in general, that is what I'm trying to share. Basically, this natural element we need to pay attention to. The soil structure, the kind of soil that we are farming, the water that we are applying to the soil, the sunlight penetrating our soil, our plants, and the air that flows freely in our system. And that's the reason why the idea of the forest farm is really a very good idea. It's very permaculture in nature. You create like some kind of a food forest because the there is outright stability in the natural system, especially in the habitat of diversified vegetation like a forest. So instead of planting one, you planting you plant more diversity. I remember one of my talk in California after the Eco Farm conference. One of my student there said, "Oh, I cannot do diversity in my farm. I grow grapes. I can only use grapes and cover crop." As compared to that garden that we went to, they grow multi crops. They have plants, they have goat, they have vegetables, herbs, etc. And I said, you know what you need to do? This type of condition that you have in this garden, you you don't need to inoculate microbes as open as the one you have in the vineyard. When I was in Thailand, the same story that I heard. I see this farmer who's been practicing natural farming also. He was just spraying cocktail extract or juices that you asked me what he put. He put anything, everything from the kitchen, anything from the farm. He just dump it in a big cement container and then juice it, ferment them, and use it to spray the whole farm with it. And he was walking around and he was whistling, spraying nothing, and he can even smell what he's spraying. I said, "What the hell are you doing?" "I'm spraying the farm with the food, so the microbes here will not live because there's already microbes there. So it's just a matter of feeding them." In this case, he using the fermented extract as the food, the bionutrient. What's alive? And surprisingly, hail, it's a recycle. Everything is recycled back to the natural system. We need to understand that commercial agriculture, the problem with it is we lose soil fertility because of the commercial way or the fertilization, for example. I would talk to people and they would say, "Oh, you need to put fertilizer, NPK if you're conventional. Or if you're organic, you need to put compost. You need to put inoculant. You need to put extract, etc., etc." I said, "Yeah, we need to do that because we don't have productivity. We don't have the economic remuneration of farming. Like if you typically, and this is an example that I use here in the Philippines, I have a mango tree. The mango tree has 100 fruits. Okay. The tenant of the farm is the husband and the wife. The husband gets one of the fruit, the wife gets one of the fruit, and keep the rest to fall to the ground. And it's sustainable, and he do nothing agriculture. The the mango bear fruit continuously without intervention, without human intervention. But then somebody taught this farmer, "Hey, you better go to McDonald's. So try the fast food. But then you need to bring money. You cannot go down there and buy McDonald's without money." So now they harvested the 98 fruits and sell it. And then after a while, they say, "How come the mango does not bear fruit anymore. Then, of course, the consultant said, you need to fertilize, either with chemicals or with organic. So the whole idea is let's regenerate the natural system. Okay. And the whole thing is, again, in ecology, it's the carrying capacity. We put too much burden to the environment. That's why it cannot produce that food that it used to produce. And I believe as agriculture is defined, is is the production of food with the human intervention. And one of the great way of doing this is using our natural farming system, especially the use of the microbe, the ferments, the enzyme, the juices, the extract, and of course, the different diversified microbes to keep the land alive and produce more food, etc., etc. I was even listening to that guy from yesterday. I think I was listening to that guy from Uganda.
Yeah.
Was it Uganda or in Africa?
Yesterday.
On pig.
Yeah, yesterday was Kenya.
Yeah. And then also, yeah, Kenya. I was also listening to the recycling of poo, you know, the the manure, human manure. One time I was telling my student, okay, to save on feeds when you're feeding it to the animal, take a look when you give the chicken or the pig the commercial feeds, okay? You see that the poo still have the feeds,
Yeah.
okay? So what does it mean? It means that all the feeds are not properly digested. There's still feeds on the poo, okay? So I tell my student, why can we not feed this poo to the pig or to
Well,
the chicken?
yeah, right.
I said, oh no, we can't do that. And and the the main reason why is because of the toxicity of the manure. Okay, especially if it's not processed. Secondly, it has lost its nutritional value or minimized its nutritional value. Before it's 100%, now it's probably only 30%. So I told them, what if I take out the toxin and elevate the nutritional value back to 100? Can I not feed that manure to the chicken, to the pig again?
And it
And of
worked.
course, the answer is yes. And it worked. And how do you use it? How do you do that? Take the
Fer-
toxin out using our microbes.
yeah, fermentation.
Elevate fermentation, put them, elevate the nutritional value of the poo by adding our bionutrient, our different extract. And there you go. You don't need to buy the feeds or you use less feeds. So it's a matter of learning, observing. That's why I call it one point. I call it outright observation. Observing the phenomenon of nature. When you look at the phenomenon of nature, nature will tell you the answer. As I talk to the chicken, talk to the pig, talk to the plant, the chicken, the pig, the plant will talk back to me and will tell me the answer in a different way, in a different level, in a different dimension. And people start to laugh at me. Hey, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, can you
How
check out?
can the chicken talk back to you? How can the pig talk back to you? How can the plant talk back to you? Well, the response will be dependent on the phenomenon that they will manifest to you. Like my classical example in one of my old farm help, I said, he came to me one time and he said, boss, sir, I don't know why this bok choy is not doing well. I've done everything that you have told me. The land preparation, the compost, the spray, blah, blah, blah. Yet, it doesn't look good. And he started to look at me direct in my eyes. And I said, I don't know. I don't know the answer. Why don't you pray? Why don't you look up to heaven and pray to God and ask why? So the stupid farm helper of mine start to look up and say, Our Father who art in heaven, and in the middle of his prayer, he stopped. Oh my God. Oh, that's the reason why my bok choy is not doing well. There's a plant that shades my bok choy. The element of sunlight. Hey, you need to remember most of the vegetables we grow are need sunlight, and most of microbes of bacterial association. The fungal association is more the fungal association is more can be found in forest, in the grassland, are more bacterial in association, to borrow the terms of Elaine Ingham. Anyway, so this phenomenon is something that this phenomenological approach is basically observing what nature is showing you the phenomena manifestation. It answers your question. In fact, when I have problems that I cannot solve, I try to Google, I try to talk to who knows, etc., and still doesn't come out with an answer. You know what I do?
Talk to
I simply
nature.
let go. Talk to no, just let go and let nature does it course. And later, oh my God, the nature will intervene and will solve the problem for you because we're just part of nature. You know, we're not bigger than air. Nature has the answer. It's pure, it's perfect. It will give you the answer if we just trust nature. We think that we are demigod. We think that we're the most intelligent creature. Okay, we try to explode the natural system. We don't exploit the natural system. We work with the natural system. We are part of nature. We are not bigger than nature. Our ultimate teacher is nature. And that's what natural farming is all about. This agriculture intervention that we're doing right now is to create a living soil. And when we create a living soil with maybe 1 meter of organic matter and billions of microbes, we don't need to fertilize. We don't need to fertilize. I've seen it in a rainforest in Mindanao, down south, where I collect some of the materials I use in making IMO. I said, hey, you collect it from healthy, you collect it from nature tells you, hey, don't be stupid. Collect it from here. You can see the the prevalence of good diversified microbes in this area as compared to some other areas. Anyway, so that is really basically the goal. So we have really jeopardized our farming system. Anyway, how much time I have?
10 minutes left.
Okay. Well, I don't have much time. I have many things to cover. Basically, what I'd like to summarize, basically, what I'm trying to communicate to this convergence is let's not just pay attention to the small stuff, the natural farming, the microbes, etc. But let's also focus on the other elements, okay? The macro elements. Let's focus on I think Steve talked about this, the similarity of natural farming to biodynamic. Let's talk about what's in the ground, the terrestrial. Let's talk about the one above the ground, the celestial. When we interconnect all these small influences, it will improve our farming system, and it will heighten the effectivity, the potency of the microbes that we are trying to culture to improve our farming system. And basically, that's it. If there's some question, please do ask questions. Steve is, I can see Steve here in front of me.
Hey, Gil. Great to see you
Yeah,
again.
it's been a while. You lost your
Yeah.
hair. I start to lose my hair too.
I know, crazy, isn't it? Well, we're
How
still
old are you
going. We're
now?
still farming. That's great.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, most of our friends, like, is dead. Like, what's that guy? That long hair guy, Cartesiano?
Bob,
Amigo,
amigo,
amigo.
amigo, Contisano.
Oh, yeah, amigo. Yeah. Anyway, you have some notes or some tests? Yeah, go ahead. Peter,
Oh,
I'm pretty much done. You know.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't really
Really.
not so many questions coming in, but I stepped out. My wife wanted to go for a walk because it's her birthday. So I came back and I heard you talking about magnetized water and structured water. Yeah, I think that ties into kind of the three legs of the stool: the microbes, the minerals, and the bioenergy. And of course, biodynamics recognizes that. And you know, Mokishi Okada has purifying therapy with bioenergy, the Jore. So, you know, there's a little bit of bioenergy tied into nature farming.
Yeah.
Dr. Higa talks about magnetic resonance and, you know, basically HADO or electromagnetic waves. So positive.
Yeah, I think you're more familiar with this. You see this?
Yeah.
It's a belt magnets. I got this from Japan. It kind of help out, heat it up naturally, and it alleviates my back pain, I guess, because I'm getting old. Anyway, go ahead.
No, it's good. It's good to see. Honestly, I think it's the next big innovations are going to come from biomagnetism and scalar energy, things that farmers can take advantage of, these natural things that occur in nature. We've done really well with the whole biological world. It's pretty widely available to farmers now. There's a big learning curve to figure all this out, though. Are you now?
As a matter of fact. Go ahead. Yeah.
Are you living at your eco village now?
No, I'm in my farm. I just came here to the farm to do this Zoom because I don't have Wi-Fi access in the island, in the eco village that I'm building. Yesterday I started to rehabilitate the cub houses that was ruined by the typhoon, and I have so much of those wood that came from the volcanic eruption. I started to implant it on cob for walling, and I'm creating. I wanted to open it up maybe this summer here, but mainly for camping because I have divided I have made several platforms on the slope of the island. The island is about 55-hectare island. It's called Napayong Island. You can Google it, and so people can camp in. Since I don't have facility, can have primitive campsite up, And one of the aspects that we're trying to build is one aspect is a artist village, and the other one is an intentional community. And the one that will create the money is the uh, knapsack, it's a small resort, okay, down by the lake shore, but two villages, the eco village, the artist village, and the intentional community. And hopefully one time we'll be able to invite people to participate in this experiment. It's not really an experiment. As you know, eco village has been created. Even I heard even 3 generations already in Brazil. So that's what I've been trying to do, and trying to grow food, but very limitedly because of the problem of the slope, the very limited planting area, and harshness of water and air from the lake shore. So, and to bring it up to the slope, I need to bring in the lake water. Right now we have what we call solar panel, generate some electricity, then pump the water up to the slope so we can partially water the plants. But I have difficulty in growing most of the western vegetable. Even some local vegetable does not do well because of the condition of the soil, which is very, very sandy. During summer, it's all dust. And during rainy season, it's okay. So heat, and also continuously up to now, the volcano is exuding some sulfur dioxide, creating acid rain to the plant. Anyway.
Well, thank you so much, Gil, for coming on and being part of the conference and all the great work you've been teaching farmers all these years.
I hope to see you in the Philippines one day. Huh?
Yeah, well, it'd be great if we could bring you back here to COVID disrupted all the conferences. Hardly anybody does conferences anymore. Everybody's gone to Zoom.
You still, the Eco Farm Conference still in?
It's still there. I haven't been back there. I still go to the Acres USA conference.
Oh, Acres Conference.
Yeah.
You're based in Kentucky now?
Yes.
Oh my God. How can you live in Kentucky?
Yeah, it's nice here.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I live in the Midwest for a while when I was in America, but mostly I live in New York and California.
Yeah. So Peter, is your next speaker coming on?
Yeah, I've just communicated and we are going to start in about a minute.
Okay.
So I would like to thank you very much, Gil, for being with us here today, Gil. And is there any way that folks that can contribute to your eco village? Is the fund? I found a fundraiser I donated to before. Is that one of the best ways to help support you?
Yeah, it's not the same. You can go to my site. You know, I think the Hill Carandang site.
Okay.
Would be greatly appreciate some help. In fact, some of my old friends, I offered them, okay, I build you a cub house here. You invest on it, and then later on, I can rent it out, and then if you're here, nobody can use it except you. Anyway, greatly appreciated. We're only about 3 people working on the place right now.
Well, yeah, for sure. I will have to send something there myself, or more directly to you if they take a piece out of it. I will find a way to.
Yeah, and also you come here too.
I would love to.
I've lost most of my volunteers. I used to have plenty of volunteers from abroad. I'm on a workaway and whooping program.
Well, for sure. Yeah, we will have to stay in touch. I would love to come visit the Philippines someday.
Okay.
Um, thank you.